Engineering and Master's Engineering with the specialization in Systems and Signal Processing from Osmania University. He received his PhD degree from IIIT Hyderabad from the Center for VLSI and Embedded System Technologies. He joined Vardhaman College of Engineering in the year 2011. Currently, he is the professor and dean academics. Dr. Ravindra has published more than 100 research papers in peer-reviewed journals and referred journals and conferences. He holds one patent also. One scholar received PhD degree under his guidance, and presently eight PhD scholars are working under him. He received funding projects from various funding agencies like AICTE, DSTE, and IT with worth of 2.3 crores. Is also a reviewer for reputed international conferences and prestigious journals like IEEE Transactions and VLSI, Computers, and IET journals. His research interests are device circuit co-design for nanoscale silicon and non-silicon technologies, low power electronics for portable computing and wireless communications, and new computing models enabled by emerging technologies. Dr. Ravindra is a senior member of IEEE, ACM, fellow IETE, and fellow IE. We are fortunate to have Dr. Ravindra with us today to deliver a talk on course delivery and assessment designs. I welcome Dr. Javier to start his session.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your nice introduction. Hope I'm audible to everybody. And while I'm giving this presentation, I am also able to see the YouTube live also. So therefore, if you have any doubts, in the content, so you may please raise the doubts. So I will address them then and there itself. Okay, so that's point number one. And the point number two is I welcome one and all for this FDP on quality education through OBE. So it's wonderful, you all teachers that, you are doing splendid work. So there are certain things that I would like to share with you today on the course delivery and assessment design. So, all right. So let me begin my talk here now. So first of all, I just give you the acknowledgements to all the people that, from whose presentation slides have been freely lifted. So I have taken some of these, slides from other presentations. So, that's the reason there's acknowledgements. So sorry to disturb you again. So there's a small time gap will be there between the slide to slide. So you have to really have a bit patience. Okay. So the main point in the course delivery is there are various resources that you have. The first wonderful resource that you have is IEEE Transactions on Education. So this is a wonderful reset, wonderful resources that one can really look into, and you try to become a member in education society, and then you can freely look into the transactions in on-education, because there, people will discuss lots of things there. See, we are all teachers, and the most fundamental point or the important point everybody should remember is that there is no doubt that the content that you have, that means every one of us is a very good teacher, right? We have fantastic knowledge with us, whatever the course that you teach for your BTech students. But the gap is, how do we present that content in the class? When you go on the dais and when you stand there, you may be having wonderful, preparation style. But once you go there, half of it you will forget it. That's what happened when I started my career in '99. So I prepared for a class almost from 6 hours, and then when I go to the class, I just forgot. God knows what is there in my mind. So these kind of things will normally happen. So that's the main essence of this particular session, that course delivery. I'm not telling you that how to what to teach. What to teach, everybody knows, but I'm just trying to concentrate on how to teach, right? And the second thing is, Frontiers in Education Conference. That is also a very good resource to you. And IEEE Global Engineering Education Conference. This is a conference where people have discussed, how to deliver the courses and how do you assess the students. Okay, and the last but one is the tail, which is the very famous, that is growing up in India now, International Conference on Teaching, Assessment and Learning for Engineering. And the last one is the MOOCs. Most of you know about this MOOCs as well as the NPTEL kind of thing, how the professors are helping the community. So innovation and technology in education, right? Now, I have a small quiz to you, right? It's a simple quiz. So I'm just going to show one photograph to you. So you just identify who is this, and then you can share your answers in YouTube. I just wait for a 1 minute, not more than that. Okay. So I'll see your answers. Okay. So yes. Uh, who is this gentleman? Anybody can answer this question. I'll just wait for a minute or two. So let's wait this. Let's see this. You can answer in chat box. I can see your answers also. No answers yet. Okay. So I think you haven't seen him, or you know you haven't come across about this professor. Sorry, sir, no idea. Okay, one response. That's okay. There is no need to say sorry. Okay, so I'll introduce why actually I have taken this professor. Is he's the main person behind education system. You please remember that again, repeatedly. I'll tell you only one point in the entire session, that what to teach. I'm not here to say that. My experience, and then what research says how to teach. So there are certain things that I would like to share with you, and he is none other than Bloom, Benjamin Bloom, right? So you heard about Bloom's taxonomy. People have been last 3 or 4 days, we have been talking about this Bloom's taxonomy, right? And there are 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and then remember, understand, analyze, apply, evaluate, create, and all these things. We have been talking about this. And he's the person in 1956, Benjamin Samuel Bloom, published the first volume of taxonomy on the educational objectives. So the classification of education goals, which outlined a classification of learning objectives. So day before yesterday, one professor from our department spoke about course outcomes. And today I'll be talking about the learning outcomes. There is something called learning objectives and learning outcomes. And he's the one who has introduced the concept of taxonomy in the educational objectives. So that's what we have been calling it as Bloom's taxonomy. And you must understand that although it is published in 1956, almost 50, 60 years back, still we are following it. That means you can understand the essence and importance of this Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so the people who don't understand what is taxonomy, I have just given a dictionary meaning, which means the classification of something like organs, trees, rivers based on some properties. So you can classify the trees based on some properties, rivers based on some properties. Even when you go to the class also, knowingly or unknowingly, you divide the class into 3 or 4 groups. Like, one group is extraordinary good people, like, second one is the average group, third one is below average. Most of the time we concentrate on the below average students, because above average students we can concentrate, but above average they can do themselves everything, right? So he's the one who spoke about the you know uh, taxonomy in 1956, and accordingly, later the educationalists, not the professors, educationalists have changed the taxonomy for the current situation, and they have brought something called modified Bloom's taxonomy, which actually we are talking about. So, but earlier in 1956, whatever that he has proposed, that's what you called knowledge levels: K1, K2, K3, K4, K5, K6. Now we are calling it as a remember, understand, like that. Okay, so that's a first point here. And now I'm going to introduce something called five finger concept. Okay, so the first 5 to 10 minutes, most probably I'll take 5 to 10 minutes time, that I just wanted to give you a bit introduction to these concepts, that what is five finger concept and other thing, because these concepts are already taught in the last sessions, but still I just would like to overview of them. Please don't feel that I'm repeating that, because those concepts are required to understand the delivery of the course. So that is what I called a five finger concept. So what is this five finger concept? So we know that we have five fingers, right? So, and each finger has a different thing. So suppose if you wanted to do something, you must have support from all the five fingers, right? So here, so if you observe the the meaning of all these five fingers, the first one will talk about the course overview. The second one will talk about the course objectives. The third one is course outcomes. And the next one is course Bloom's matrix. And the last one is course assessment matrix, or we call it as a course articulation matrix. So these are the 5 points which are very, very, very important for a course. And these 5 points will almost all decide your course delivery, how effectively you're doing it. I'll give you 2 examples here, and most of you have really come across these kind of examples in your lifetime. You might have seen some professors are like this. I'm not blaming anybody here, uh, but you understand. I just have to give you some examples to better understand the content. uh, we have come across so many professors, like, they have splendid knowledge, but their delivery is a bit poor, right? So we have seen some kind of, our colleagues are also will be like that. But if you go to their cabin and if you ask them to explain, they'll explain like anything. They'll explain better than the textbook author. So that is situation number one. And situation number two is, there are some kind of teachers, like, they normally have less content, but when they go to the class, they do amazing things, right? So probably they have only a small knowledge, but according to the feedback from the students, they do good. But trust me, these two kind of teaching methodologies really, do wrong on the student community. Okay, so one, you must have a good knowledge, but at the same time, the delivery. So once, if you consider a particular topic or a content, why can't you present that particular content in 50 minutes? So sometimes you finish off in 30 minutes, sometimes you take more time. If a student interrupt in the class for the question and answers, the time will really prolong. There's no doubt. But otherwise, sometimes we take very less time and sometimes we take more time. Why? So that's what actually, I'm going to talk about the course delivery. So these are the 5 points that are very, very important with respect to a course, which is nothing but overview, objectives, outcomes, CB matrix, and CA matrix. Coming to the overview, people have been writing the uh, people have been writing the overview. But when I ask you to, suppose, let us consider one course, because I belong to electronics and communication department, so therefore I consider ECU courses. But doesn't mind, you can consider any course: RAC, refrigeration, air condition, fluid mechanics. You take anything, you take any course, doesn't matter. But what I would like to say is, so you take a course called digital signal processing. So if you take a course and when I ask to write an overview of that particular course, and if you have written 2 pages of it, no student will read it. Trust me, because they just read a couple of 1 or 2 lines of that particular course, and then they'll just leave it. So we have to write down very effectively the course overview there. So if you don't write the course overview effectively, then the whole thing will go into the way, because this is the first step in the delivery of it. So I'm in this particular context, I'm going to give the second question to you. Please don't mind me, because I'm asking you the questions. There are so many people who are better than me, but because I'm sitting here, I'm delivering it, so therefore sometimes I feel I can ask the questions to you. So the next question, what I would like to ask is, you can still send me the answers through chat box. I can see that YouTube live. Okay, so I'll read your answers. So my next question is, if a student comes to you, suppose you are teaching a course called ABC course. You take any course of your own choice. Just imagine that you are teaching some course that you're doing it now in online. If a student comes to you and say that and ask you that, ma'am or sir, uh, why should I do this course? Then what will be your answer? He simply asked, why should I do this course? So what do you say? Just in one line, you can just send me an answer. So I just read it. So whatever is there in your mind, you can just type it. I just look into that. Whatever is there in your mind. If you're still thinking, it is well and good. The student simply asks that, why should I? Jay Lakshmi from Chennai, she has written that to enrich knowledge. Okay. Okay. Right. You just keep sending the answers. I'll just forward, because time constraints. We'll try to Jay Sri Patil. We'll try to relate importance of the course in real life. Good. That's a good thing. But sometimes we say some answers like this. It is important. Why it is important? And some people will say that it is very important in gate point of view. That's fine. And some people will say that it is important for the next semester courses. Let us say that, uh, see, I'll tell you, signals and systems, if you consider it, it comes in the signal processing. But the student may interest in VLSI, so, or communications. So can you correlate that this course is also a fundamental course to VLSI or a fundamental course to communication? And how many of us really say that this course will give you a job? Can we say like that? So how do we have such kind of a confidence that, if you teach this course and the another course, probably 2 courses, and definitely that kind of the courses, if you do it, that really give you a real life to you, that means you get a job in core industry or enrich knowledge. To some extent, I do agree with that, but there are several things that a course will give you. So once, that is what actually in overview it has to come. So it is not only talk about, you should not write completely about the courses. Okay, so it's not that people are writing that to develop skill regarding the project. Excellent. So all these things are fine. So the point is, the course overview should talk about all these things, but it must be in a crisp manner. That means you should not really elaborate that particular content, and then followed by course objectives. What exactly the students will understand, that is course outcomes. Next one, I'm not going to talk about the next four, because the next four, that means objectives, outcomes, CP matrix, CA matrix, people have already spoken about it. My only point is the course overview, because that's where the delivery will start. If you don't write the overview, uh, you know correctly, then it goes in a wrong way. Okay, so now let us get started. The course overview, whatever that I said, it just comes here. So we just have to ask certain questions here, that what is the value of the course. Okay, so a value does not really measure with respect to the importance, with respect to the gate or GRE or some exams. Forget about all these things. You may have gate this year, you may not have gate next year. So if gate is not there, should I say the student to drop that particular course? No, that's not the point. So competitive examinations will be there, that's fine. So but how the student is going to have his life in that? So what are the outcomes, and what is the benefit to the student? This is the most important one. This benefit you have it, right? This benefit, this is the main crux here. So what kind of the benefit that the student is going to get after attending your 60 hours class? Normally, you are teaching that particular course to the student 60 hours in the whole semester. So we just have to really look at that, how actually it will help the students. What makes the course unique or special offered by me? So suppose the same course is offered by 3 or 4 faculty members in your uh, you know mm, university or organization or college. One particular faculty will get very good feedback. Okay, so that means so we just have to, don't take anything ego or any other thing here. Teachers should not have that. First of all, we just have to really look at that, what is the delivery mechanism of that particular professor, right? Why the students are understanding it. So what is lacking in me? So can I compare it? If you always consider the positive criticism there. So I already give you 2 examples. You so some people don't have any kind of knowledge, but they do extremely good in the class. So let us don't compare with such kind of things. But you should really compare. That's what I said, positive way. If that particular professor is really doing good, let us understand the delivery mechanism of that particular course from the professor. There's nothing wrong in that. What makes the course unique or special offered by me, right? So state clearly and precisely what the course is about. So this is the most important thing, and that's what I just discussed just now. So the opening sentence is, remember the first 5 words of a course description, which are most important. Okay, so I mean to say that the students reviewing a course catalog will skim those 5 words and decide whether what kind of knowledge that they get from that particular course. So therefore, we have to be really good in writing the course overview. It does not mean that we have to take the content from the standard textbook. If you look at the standard textbooks, like any textbook you take it for your course, some international author or very good publishers, they write something called a preface. When we ask our faculty members, especially in Vardhaman, sometime back, 4 or 5 years back, then after that, we have trained them. Then they used to write. Now they were writing course overviews very effectively. But when I've given this work to the faculty members 4 to 5 years back, they used to take a standard textbook and they used to write down the preface as an overview, and then they used to submit to us. Who will read 3 or 4 pages of content? Do you expect the students will read? Never. They are millennial students. Please understand, there is a lot of difference between the current generation and our generation, right? Most of you are in age, you are younger to me, but still your students are, that they are really good. They are called millennial students, not millennium, millennial students. So their thought process is something different, right? So they just want everything to be done in a flash of seconds. Okay, so that's the main point. So I just wanted to take one simple example here, that course overview, because as I said right from the beginning, that this is very important. So let us take one simple course, right? So uh, I just have written like this. The course will you can so which program this talks about, okay, and where is this course useful, and what are you going to cover. Okay, so when we say that what are you going to cover, normally people will write the whole syllabus. Okay, so first unit cover so and so, second unit cover so and so, third one, fourth one, fifth one. Not like that. You just have to understand the crisp of it and then do it. So sometimes you might have seen the movies. So rather than playing 2.5 hour movie, now people are saying about something called trailers, right? So in 2 minutes they'll explain the whole movie there, but the crux, the main part, they don't explain, but remaining thing you will really understand, something like that. So it's a fundamental course. So which program and where is this course useful, right? So digital computers, and what are you going to cover? Simple. In a 3 points, you can just write down. So then the students will really understand. Oh, fine. So then he will correlate with him that digital computer. So if he wants to become a computer engineer or hardware computer engineer, then he feels that this course is important to him. So then he'll map his knowledge with what actually you are doing it. Okay, so this is the most important thing. Later I'll talk about something called um, teaching material versus learning material. Then probably in the next couple of slides I'll be talking about that. So you'll understand there what actually student thinks and what we think. So there is a big gap between these two. But unfortunately, most of the students, 97%, that's what my statistics says, about 97% of the students cannot explain what they are expecting from you. Right? So because of that, there will be a gap. This gap, we could not fill it. We are not able to fill this. Okay. So the next one is, just a minute. Okay. Okay, so then you can talk about that there is something called sequential circuits and standard electronic components, right? So finally, you can just close that way. So that's what actually I call about the course overview. Once you have a strong course overview with you, then um, we then most probably the delivery is going to become damn easy. So therefore, because you will be in line with it, in the same line. So whatever the because you have written the boundaries to you, that means what is the overview? Because in the overview only you will play. That's it. You don't cross behind that, because if someone asks you doing certain points, you can simply tell them that it's like advanced topic or out of the syllabus status. Otherwise, if you don't put this overview of the course, the delivery is going to become very, very tough, because you have already decided what actually to be covered. Now, there are only 2 points in my, actually 3 points. The third one at this moment is hidden. So there are 2 points that I would like to cover. So first I covered already uh, the five-finger concept, and the second one is the three-eye diagram. I'm just sorry to stop here. Some people are uh, asking me to share the presentation. We'll do it. We'll do it. You please concentrate. At the end of the session, we'll definitely share this presentation to you. Okay. So don't worry about it. So let's concentrate here. So the first one is a three-eye diagram. Okay. Nothing to relate it to any traditional thing, right, or religion thing. But I this is actually my point, that what actually we have observed this. And the second thing is the 7 principles of highly effective course delivery. So what are the 7 points that we must have to deliver the course very efficiently and effectively? Okay. So let us start with the three-eye diagram. So this is the three-eye diagram, which I would like to say this. Are you able to see the Nageshwar sir? Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The three eye diagram.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we are able to see.
Okay. Okay. Right, sir. Right. Sir. Okay. So see, there are three main parts here. So you can really understand. You can just imagine this. This is so easy. Such a easy point that I tell you that where normally the mistakes are going on. So that's the reason most of the time, we feel that we are working more and more. So look at this. The first one is curriculum, right? So we must have a strong curriculum. Strong curriculum in the sense you look at a course. Curriculum is a big thing that I'm talking about a BTech curriculum, but in BTech you can take only the course. So the course design, that's the most important one. So most of you are maybe from universities or some autonomous colleges, and some of you are affiliated engineering colleges also. But you please understand that we don't have anything called Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, 4, 5 kind of thing. There is nothing called unit wise teaching. We give a content, some content we'll give it. Okay, so this is what actually the designing of the course. Whenever we ask you to design a particular course, normally what we do, signals and systems, let us take. So you take a course and then you take a standard textbook. That's it. We just write all the chapters what the author has discussed, and we replace chapter with unit, and then we used to write down this. You might not have done all these things, but frankly speaking, there is absolutely no regrets. We have done it, especially in 2015-14, when someone asked me to prepare a course. I have done like that, but later I realized through OBE and other sessions, we realized that that's not the way of preparing the course content or the course, right? It's not that we just have to copy from the, uh, textbook to this. We have to look at it's like a back end approach. What students need, because we have ample of knowledge. Students don't have knowledge. We know what is a real life. Students don't know what is a real life. Therefore, we have to talk to the industry people and then decide that what concepts or what content is required to the student, so that when he graduate, whatever the content that I have taught in that particular semester will give him a life. So you need to look at like that. It's like, you are playing a major role. You are the pillar between the student as well as to the industry. So students cannot talk to the industry, but you can talk. You can at least, if it is not industry, at least you have to look at the other people. That's what we know. We have something called BOS, Board of Studies. You have wonderful professors in your organization, and then you just have to talk to them and then understand what content is required. You have to, when you write something, um, uh, why actually that is required. Because I'm very sorry, I'm just getting always easy examples, but you can correlate these examples to your departments. If you are an ECE or triple E, or even to some extent mechanical also, people will teach Fourier series. See, Fourier developed the Fourier series in 1718, 1718. That means almost 350, 60 years back, or almost more than that. I'm teaching even now. So therefore, why I'm teaching that, is it not obsolete? Something that happened in 400 years back, even I'm teaching the same thing to the students. Is it not obsolete? It is not. Certainly, it is not, because even now I'm using Fourier series. That thing you have to say to the students. So when you talk about the Fourier history, and if you say that he born in 1680 and he invented something in 1700, I'm teaching this in the sense. So mostly student may not ask you, but they have something in their mind that why I'm learning this? Why should I learn this? So you have to tell them that, see, although it is invented some time back, it is still, we have a lot of applications of this. Tell them the applications. Because of this, you're doing it. You take a Schmidt trigger. Schmidt trigger is a Fourier series, right? The application, the background of a Schmidt trigger is Fourier series. And Schmidt trigger you are using in the lab. Without Schmidt trigger, you can't convert a sine wave to the square wave. So therefore, that's the main essence of it. So you have to always bring them to the applications, because industry will look at only applications. Because what they feel is, if the student know the application, that means he already knew the theory. That's the reason he could implement in a right way. But the converse is not true, right? So that way you have to prepare the course. So the course must be, most efficient way. You take one more example that, in first transistor built in 1947, right? but fabrication is done in 1950. But still, you are explaining the same fabrication principles in the class, which has happened in 1950. Nobody is using it. Nobody in this world is using such kind of technique. So thinking about it, I have removed fabrication principles from my BLSA course. I said that this is not required because industry is not using it. So think about it. So every point that you write it on the course should be informative to the students. Every time when he asks himself that why I'm doing this, he has to immediately understand that yes, because of this I'm doing this. So that's the beauty of the curriculum. Once the such kind of the curriculum is built, then you go to the second step, which is what we call teaching and learning process. This is what you are going to do in the entire semester. In the beginning of the semester, you prepare a strong course, which I call it as a curriculum, if I consider a department level, right? And then followed by the next 6 months or 4 months, whatever the semester that you have, the 80 days or 90 days, you talk about the TLP, teaching learning process. This is what actually the main crux. And the next is followed by the assessment. How are you going to assess it? So you taught something, right? You have taught you taught some concept, but did the student understand that fairly? Does he have any doubt in that? Now, how do you come to know? That means he will not come to you. He will not ask. Out of 60 class, my guts feeling is that only 4 or 5 students will regularly come to you. The remaining 56 don't care. They don't come to you at all, right? Unless you call them to your place and if you chat with them. Otherwise, they don't come to you. But because they're not coming to you, how do you assess that, first of all? So what is the guarantee that they understood completely? So therefore, teacher-centric teaching to student-centric teaching, we have to go. That's a main point. That is what it is there in the TLP. Okay. So it's not that what you know, it is that what they want. What they want, you teach. Enough. Done. So what they want, how do you know? You must have a big background of it. You have to talk to the industry people, right? This is what we call it as a indirect assessment, the exit surveys, industry surveys. Again, I'm going back to that. Everything is interlinked here. Okay. So you need to talk to the industry people, you need to talk to the parents, you need to talk to the other professors, other engineering colleges, look at everything and then prepare the thing. So once that is over, then assessment. This is where some people um, this is where some people will really say a point that the main point what they say is, sir, how can we assess the students? Because the assessment is in the examination department hands. Then how do we assess it? See, I'm not going there to the examination branch and then talk about all those things. You assess the students. You just conduct a small quiz. You just give a that's what I'm calling it as a formative assessment. There are two types of assessments: FA and SA, formative assessment and summative assessment. So the formative assessment, let us concentrate more. Then your TLP will become very strong. And the summative assessment, we are not IIT professors. If you are an IIT professor, then summative assessment is also in your hand, because whatever you conduct, that will be final. There is no examination department and nothing like that. And in some universities are also, the summative assessment is also in the professor's hand. So if it is there, then they'll get the maximum advantage of it. Otherwise, whatever the formative assessment we have, that we'll get it. Whatever is there in your hand, that is the only thing that we can do it. Okay. Now, coming back to this, the seven principles of highly effective teachers to deliver the courses. Okay. Designing the context, and the second one is the developing material. I have given the overview of all these points already to you, but now I'll go in depth of it, each and every point. Okay. And the next one is the delivery methods, the lesson plan, and designing an assessment plan, articulating beliefs and real-time scenario. Okay. So what actually we have brought, I'll go one by one. So therefore, there is no need to nothing to worry. When it comes to the real-time scenario, we have recently introduced one major thing at Vardhaman College. So if time permits, go to the website and then look at the course syllabus. You will find out all the best practices that we have considered at our college. The thing, what I would say is problem based learning and project based learning. So PBL, both are called PBL. Okay, so you take a concept, right? You design a problem on that, and you give that problem in the class. Don't give more than 5 minutes time. You cannot give half an hour time to do such kind of things, because the class, you cannot reach your things, because you will be given only 50 or 55 hours to cover the course, and if you conduct the exams like this, time may not be sufficient. Okay, so so that is the simplest way to assess the students. Okay, but I'll tell you, in this there are certain things, that are small mistakes that we do it. That's something called surprise test. Never conduct surprise test to the students. Don't do that. So there is nothing surprise to them, right? You just give a well advance, that just tell them that next week you're going to conduct an exam. So like that. So if you do like that, then there will be a lot of preparation into that particular course. Then the delivery mechanism will become easy, right? So if they don't understand it, that's what I call context process content. Okay, so whatever the content that you have, which must be a contextual, right, which has certain things. The first thing is what I call the learning outcome, right? And the second thing is teaching and learning activities. Sorry, the first thing is teaching and learning activities, learning outcomes, and the last one is feedback and assessment methods. Okay, so this is where I would like to talk about one important thing. That point is teaching material versus learning material. Most of us, this actually, even I have done the same thing, a couple of years back, probably some 10, 11 years back. uh, I prepare some notes, right, to deliver a particular topic in the class, right? So I prepare 4 or 5 pages notes, neat handwritten sketches, borders. We are very good. Teachers are best in that, in putting so many colors, right? So we use most of the colors, right? uh, Decorations, this, that, everything we do. And we'll take the material to the class. We'll explain the concept with that material. And when student comes to you and asks, ma'am or sir, can you give me some notes? We'll give the same notes to them. See, you must understand one point here. The notes that you have prepared is teaching material. Student expectations are learning material. There is a lot of difference between these two. Teaching material never be learning material. Learning material is something different that you have to prepare separately. Teaching material you prepare once in your life. That's it, over. Learning material, you have to continuously have to change. Every year you have to change the learning material, because the students are changing. Teaching material, I don't think so. You have to change unless you change the syllabus, because you take a particular concept. Suppose mechanical or civil engineering students or civil faculty members, if there are any, in fluid mechanics, they'll explain something called Reynolds number. Okay, there is some formula, and you have a concept on it, and then you explain it. If I explain that so and so Reynolds number or any other concept this year or after 20 years, the concept remains same, right? Probably after 20 years, if you're explaining the same concept, your pages may be brittled, right? Because that's old material it has become. But the teaching material is different than the learning material. Don't map these two. So whatever that you have prepared, don't give that to the students, because the students cannot understand, because you have written that particular notes for your understanding. How do you want to deliver the content in the class? For that you have prepared. But if you prepare the same thing, if you give it the same thing to students, they don't like it. Okay, so this is what actually we call it as an appropriateness of the methodology, right? So that is the learning outcomes. So learning outcomes, normally you have to calculate from the learning material. And the first one is teaching and learning activities. You need to decide both things, what actually you want to do it, and how do you want to perform that in the class. And of course the feedback is very important, whether you take the feedback or your HOD will take the feedback. Normally, feedback systems are very, very They are something like a, fear comp that. So if you get less feedback, you are a bad teacher. If you get more feedback, you are a good teacher. That's not the way of doing it. Feedback, not on the person. Feedback on the course. Okay, so people don't like me, but they may like my content. So therefore, we have to prepare a feedback system in such a way that they have to give the feedback on the course, not on the person. So here, person is not important. Okay, so how are we delivering? That is very important, because at the end of the day, student require the delivery content. Okay? Of course, if they remember you, you are the happiest person, right? So this is what I just spoke about. The teaching materials are the aids used by the facilitator to help uh, in facilitating lesson effectively. So therefore, in a crispy way, you can write down one page is enough. I found some of our faculty members taking textbooks to the class. I am deadly against that, and I stopped it at least in our college. No, we don't allow the students to take the textbooks as well as the entire library to the class so that they'll do it. No, only one page document is enough. Just you write down the content, what actually you want to teach. Once you are on the dais, I'm sure that you are so effective, and the things will automatically come there. Why you require that one page document is that to manage the time, because the time is very, very important. Okay, so otherwise, you will be in a loop, and probably you may not be able to complete it. So therefore, for a quick reference, you can write point by point, and then you what actually want to discuss. Enough done. Then learning material are the aids used by the learner to help him or learn effectively. Here at this point, we have been doing another mistake. You know what is that mistake? We write the entire textbook in a A4 sheets paper and we'll give it to the students. That is also not good. So what actually, see, there is a difference between the textbook and the course delivery. I mean, initially I discussed how to prepare the course content, right? So the course content, you may not be having the entire content in one course. You may be having in uh, three or four books. So you can take them and then you can write it, and then you are the one to prepare the notes effectively, the learning material, and this learning material should change from semester to semester. Okay, because the students will definitely change. Now you may ask, sir, uh, before the students come to my class, how do I know about the students? That's very hard. That's very hard. So before I come to that, before the students come, how do I do it? I'm not asking you to prepare the learning material before the course begins. Learning material you have to prepare after the class, and then give that material to the student. So normally we will send first material to the students and then we'll go to the class. No, that's also not a good practice. That's not the way of doing the course delivery. So after the class, you have to understand, oh, students are expecting this. Some students have asked the doubts here. So therefore, they are expecting some kind of the learning material. So therefore, based on that, you have to prepare a learning material and then take a 3 days time and then give it to the students. Then they will learn from it. So teaching and learning materials can be bought or made easily by the both facilitator as well as the learner. That's what I'm saying. Now, this is some types of teaching and learning materials. Both are mixed here. So let us look at carefully. Maps, charts, diagrams. Most of the time, you give block diagrams as a learning material to the students. Okay, because if you give that's what I said. They are called millennial students. So if you just give it to them, they will understand automatically. So they don't face any problem in writing that. So uh, because a block diagram is sufficient for a uh, better picture. Overhead projector, transparencies, TVs, videos, these are all your materials. Okay, so how effectively you are using them and all other things. Just hold on, just give me 1 minute time. All right. So I just wanted to look at now the effectiveness versus usefulness. So both are important. Okay. TLM means teaching learning materials. A lesson is more effective and useful to the learners when teaching and learning are done with the help of the things that can be seen, heard, and touched. This is where I just would like to share a small experience that I had when I was doing my, you know, uh, PhD in IIIT Hyderabad. The point is, uh, in one particular class, that is a C programming class, I asked a doubt. This happened in 2005, long time back. I asked a doubt to my faculty member saying that, sir, how pointer of a pointer will work? And then you know what the professor has done? He did not explain that. Okay, so immediately he switched on his laptop, and then he has written a program, and then 10-line program he has written, and then he asked me to explain that particular program line by line. Then I started explaining it. Then when I started explaining that, then somewhere I have done the mistake. Then the professor has corrected. Then I started. Then he started. So over a period of time, the 10 lines code is over, and at the end of the day, I understood the point. This is case number one. Let us take the case number two. The case number two, once again, I'll conclude everything. Let us take the case number two. The student asked the doubt. You explained. Kam khatam. Over. Then what is the main thing that you observed here? When student asked a doubt, if you just explain orally, it is good. 150%, that's really fantastic. There's no doubt regarding that. You have done your nice job. But did you involve all other students in the class? I would say no, because you haven't involved. Because he got the doubt, you explained, so he is happy, you are happy. But what about the rest of the students? So therefore, suppose if the doubt takes a long discussion, let us take some 8 to 10 minutes of time. Is it not that we are wasting the other students' time? At the same time, you can't ask them to meet separately and you will explain it. So then the students may underestimate you, whether you know this or not. You might have experienced all these things. There's no doubt. If you have 3 or 4 years of experience in teaching, already you'll come to know all these things. So, but rather than doing that, why can't we explain such kind of thing with a immediate application? So let us take a computer along with you to the class if your course really demands laboratory thing. But of course, there are some courses which do not require computer, but there you have to find out some other methods. I'm not discussing them. Suppose if you are teaching a management science course, how do I show a real-time application? You have to immediately think for such kind of the courses. But I'm talking about more engineering things where these things are well required. And if you start explaining as in the case one, then the professor has written the code and you start explaining, then what happens? The whole students will involve because the professor is asking the questions each and every student there who are there in the class. Some students will voluntarily explain it. The second line says this, third line says this. So therefore, you made the whole class so lively. So a simple doubt is explained there. If the student already knows such kind of the doubts, then for him, it is like a practice question. So he will really think what actually he understood is correct or wrong. The students who don't know will understand. The student who already know improve their knowledge. So this is the effectiveness. The effectiveness you have to bring it using such kind of activities in the class. This is what I call the course delivery, and this is the lesson plan, which is the most important thing. And again, I'm telling you what to teach. You don't require because you are the best. You are the best. But how to teach is the most important thing, and TLMs encourage nearly everyone to participate. That's what I'm telling you. So you can start, or else you can ask a question. So this is the point. Then how do you come across such kind of situations? Then uh, then you see that the students is going to do it. But I'll tell you, most of you know about this, but the people who don't know, there is something called flip class methods, which are going to come. Already some people are doing it. We are practicing it at Vardhaman, but not for all the courses, but at least some courses we are doing it. What is this flip method? Normally, you teach something, right, and you give an assignment. So flip class in the sense, whatever you want to teach, you record a video, give it to the students 1 day before or 2 days before. It cannot be a 15 more than 15 minutes video. Don't shoot it. 15 minutes video, give it to the students, and student will watch that video, and you explain the entire concepts in that video. Okay, there must be a lot of equipment setups will be there. Let us don't go to that particular side, but assume that you have all these things at your college, then how it goes. Then you explain this. So you explain everything in the video, you give it to it. Okay. Now solve the assignment in the class. Okay. So this is what we call the flip class. I think most of you are implementing it, but if you implement it, this will give you very, very good result. The learning curve in the students will improve. That means you are making the students engaged even at their homes. Okay, because if you just have to tell them that if you don't watch that video, you cannot understand this assignment. But if you give the assignment to the students, they are the best in copying those assignments. Perfectly they'll copy it. Okay, it is your headache to correct 60 books, 100 pages or 200 pages books at your cabin. I have seen so many professors' cabins, filled up with these assignment books. You can't correct it because you know that they have copied it. So therefore, there will be no point in doing all those things. But at the same time, we have to sometimes. So do such kind of things. So if you do these kind of things, then the lessons enjoyable and they'll become really memorable. So we just have to improve like that. Yeah. The next one is this delivery modes. There are several delivery modes that we have to really understand. The major point is this face to face. That's what we have been doing it from long time, right? So you go to the class and you explain, and then come back. And the second point is active. Um, some kind of presentations, tutorials, seminars, colloquiums. And the third one is cooperative and collaborative. This is a spike. This is a spike in education system. This kind of the collaborative learning is really a spike. Okay, so that means problem based and case study and project based. Give a small project to the students, a very small project, and you can see these kind of the projects everywhere. I mean, in the beginning of your uh, course, you have to prepare these kind of the projects, the small projects. Probably it doesn't take, um, you know, more than 15 to 20 days. Okay. But for electronics students, there is something called Electronics for You book. So there are so many projects that you get it there. Okay. Like that for other programs are also, for other departments also, you'll find them. Give small projects and you look at that. The, if you really draw a curve there, the learning will definitely increase there. Okay. And the next one is technology based delivery. That is what now we are doing it basically for online learning and teleconferences. Okay. So nowadays a third class student is also get equipped with technology based learning. Okay. Then experiential method. This is the another one which is very, very important. This is what actually we call it as an integrated courses. Okay. So bring the lab into the class, right? Or you take the class into the lab. So something. So these two things should happen simultaneously. So you are teaching a class today, and day after tomorrow you are putting a lab session on that. I don't think so. Students will remember it. Okay, but at least 60% of the students will forget it. So again, you have to go to the lab and you have to give the introduction. Why again? Already you have given the introduction in the class, but again you have to explain that this is what this is the pin, and this particular pin will do this one. Again you have to give an elaborate thing. One out of 3 hours you take 1 hour in explaining that, and remaining 2 hours the student will do it. And that too also only 60 to 70% will do it at just beginning of that 15 minutes closer to the lab, and you go there and you have to give the setup to the student. So it's not happening yet. It's not happening efficiently. So if you can do that at class itself, right? What my professors have done, when I was doing my PhD. Would be better. Okay. Then industrial training, field trips, visits. That's what you call work-based learning. And mostly these things will come to the third year and final year students, where whatever that you have learned, how the industry is implementing that. So that is one. So and now you have to look at yourself and then see that where exactly you fix there. And I have given 6 delivery methods here. Apart from that, there are some more. And out of that, the I would say that the first rank probably goes to the project-based or problem-based learning, which is nothing but the third one, which is in the yellow color one. And the next one is in the green color one, which is a demonstration of the workshops. Face-to-face teaching is always good, but if you make your class more lively, I've given some examples how to do that also. Then I take a minute pause because I have got only 30 minutes time. So actually, my this online YouTube is stuck here. Sir, do they have any doubts they were asking? Nageshwar sir?
No, sir.
No, not yet. Okay, fine.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
They are
because
sharing it. Yeah.
My YouTube is now stopped. That's the reason. Okay, sir.
No,
Right. Thank you. Thank you
yeah,
very much.
it is being played, sir. No problem. There is
Okay,
no
sir.
problem with the YouTube streaming.
Okay, okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. Right. So now, coming back to this again, 4 common teaching situations. Okay. So this is what actually just now I briefed it, but I'm showing it in a tabular column. So what are your, see, this is where you have to put it, lecture, right? So you talk, explain, clarify. That is teaching activity. What is learning activity? So you have to, the student should listen, take notes, they have to accept it, they have to ask the queries and discuss with the peers 1 minute paper. If you look at this, whose work is more? Is it not students work? They have to do a lot of things. And you please also understand that I'm not demoralizing because I'm also a teacher. Okay. You please understand that you have already prepared about it, about that particular one, and you have to go to the class and you have to explain it. While you are explaining it, it is fine because you will explain in a systematic way, but the student should do a lot of things because the ears, eyes, everything should work properly with respect to the student, right? Because he has to listen, take the notes, and then ask the queries, and he has to discuss with his colleagues. Please allow your students to talk with the fellow colleagues, because I'm pretty sure that they don't chit chat with the movies. If that is a thing, you can take any action, but you just have to allow them to talk about the subject. If they are really talking about the uh, content of that particular course, you should be pretty happy because your students are really good. They are doing really good. And something called 1 minute paper. Practice this kind of a method, which will give you really a good thing. So uh, you just prepare some objective type questions or filling the blanks questions of 10, right? And then give it just 2 minute. If you feel 10 is too much, at least you prepare some 7 to 8. They don't carry any marks, right? And just give the sheet to the students in the class and ask them to answer. And you just tell them that because this doesn't carry any marks, so therefore don't cheat. So normally they don't do it. So, and you take down the papers, and then if you look at it, then you will understand that what students understood. Okay, then again, it's what I call the self introspection. So again, you can look at yourself and then um, um, revise that concept again. If the same question is done wrong by the whole class, then the mistake is from your end, not their end. Okay, because how the whole class will do wrong because you explained it wrongly. But if 1 or 2 students have done wrong, that's fine. You are doing good. Okay. So, and then tutorials. So this is also very important because even ACT and UGC suggest also tutorials, right? So 3 credits, and out of it, at least one tutorial, or if it is 4 hours class, at least 1 hour tutorial should be there. So prepare the questions, pre-read, critic, analyze. That is the learning activities, and you have to provide the feedback on them. So you just tell them that who are doing good, who are doing bad, but We don't insult the students in the class, but while you are giving the feedback, be careful. So, and then project. This is where, my interest goes into, because I like, projects very much, because I normally give whole class projects, because they have to build some kind of system at the end of their semester. Don't carry any marks, but I told them that if you can do these kind of the projects, they can publish very good papers, and they can participate in design contests all over the world. Design contests are happening in the field of electronics, everywhere, every department. Okay. And finally, PBL, the problem based learning. Set problems to provide the feedback. So this is where the students really understand how are they doing it. So these are the teaching situations that we have it. Okay. Right. Most of us know this slide, but still a small, quick glance on it. Okay. Teacher-centered versus student-centered. So still, I remember when I was doing my bachelor's degree in Usmania University. Okay. That's it. They come, they teach, they go. But I don't mean that the process are wrong. They're extremely perfect. But if you do like that now, if you do in this situations, in this generation, if you do like that, the so-called for millennial students, they don't accept it. Okay, so you just come and teach and go. No, and right? We were sitting very studious in the class. Come to the class regularly, don't talk, and then sit. We used to afraid of our professors very much. But nowadays, students don't care. That's it. It doesn't mean that they don't respect you. They don't care. So don't expect that they have to salute you while you are walking on the corridor. No. But they respect you, but don't expect namaskar or sir, good morning, nothing doing. No. Uh, Millennial students. That's the only reason. Okay. So look at it. If it is student-centered teaching, the students will be active. You have to involve all the students into the class, right? So don't talk to only one student. I don't talk to even the group of students. You have to talk to the whole class. You have to talk. Then that's what you call the student learning. This is what I have been saying right from the beginning, that you need to understand what students want, teach it. What don't teach that, because whatever students may not need it. Okay, the entire course, but students, the whatever the content is there in the book, it, and you can able to solve each and every problem. But for students' perspective, that's not required. Whatever it is there, we just have to teach it. And role of assessment, few tests mainly for grading. Uh, that's what we do it. But if it is student centered, you have to conduct many tests. At least weekly once you have to conduct one test, at least in the tutorial hour. Just do it, and then just tell them that you are taking a test on so and so. Give a problem and then do it. And you have to correct them also. If you don't correct it, again they don't write the next test seriously. They don't do it. Emphasis, so learning correct answers and developing deeper understanding. So you need to discuss the questions then and there itself. Okay, so this is normally teacher centered is one dimensional, you just deliver it, but that is multi-dimensional. While some other student is talking, then the other students will also learn from it. That's what you call the multi-dimensional. It's not that you teach, they learn. Their fellow classmates will also talk something from there, also they will learn. Okay, so academic culture. So student centric one is extremely good. It's a collaborative and supportive, and competitive, and this is individualistic. Okay, so why I said competitive in the sense, you take one particular course. Let us say that three professors are or three faculty members are teaching the same course, and you will have a competition between you, that who is doing fast. So normally we talk like this: how many units you have covered? I covered 3 units. And how many units you have covered? 2 units. That means the person who covers 3 units is doing good. No, but how much content your students understood? How much content other faculty member students understood? Questions must be reframed. Okay, so we need to come from student centric to teacher centric to student centric. If you do like that, then the end result at summative assessment, we'll see it, how many students have got good marks, right? That is a real essence. Not only that, Sometimes people say that pass percentage, so you got 100%. Not like that. How many of your students got 100 out of 100 in your course? That is your creditability. Okay, so passing exam is okay, but how many students in your course got O grade? Extremely good. Above 90 marks, how many students? So that will happen if it is only student centric teaching only, not teacher centric teaching. Okay. Now, so just summing up, the first one, stages in the effective course delivery. So plan very well. Okay, you planning should be fantastic, right? And once this is planning, and again I'm telling you, where are we? We are in the second stage in the 3I diagram, curriculum, teaching learning process. This is a summing up the teaching learning process. Okay, so which you are doing for the whole semester, right? Curriculum is designed by your deans and then HODs, and your job is here. The course delivery is a critical thing, and after that we are coming to the assessment. The assessment, what I'm teaching next, and the assessment, what you have done in the entire semester is different. The assessment you have done in the entire semester is what you call the formative assessment. How much student understood? That is summative assessment. At the end, we'll assess the students in a different way. For that, rubrics are different. Okay, so assessing and measuring most of the time in the formative assessment, we don't consider the Bloom's levels. Okay, whatever the concept, because already the course is prepared with respect to the Bloom's level. So you just look at how much the content the student understood. Okay, right. So planning, the second part is delivery, and assessing or measuring it, and evaluate it. Finally, monitor, because this is the main thing. When the student is underperformer, don't leave them, because you are the only beacon of light to that particular student. Okay, you are the only one, and you have to call them, and you should ask them why they are not doing good, and what is the extra thing that they require to it. We should become like a parents to the students, right? So then only the things will go in a right way. So monitoring is very, very different, very, very important. Okay, so planning, delivering, assessing, evaluating, and monitoring it. So these are the things there, right? So this is once again the same thing, that effective course delivery. Okay, so this is what actually I told you, the lesson plan. Okay, so what I'm teaching, how will I teach, and how will I know if the student understand, and whom am I teaching? So keeping all these points in mind, or begin with whom am I teaching, just to begin with this, and prepare a fantastic lesson plan over there. Okay, right. And now we have the another one here, the designing of the next one, the designing of assessment plan. Okay, so in the designing of assessment plan, whatever that you have done it in the entire semester is different than what actually is done after the semester. So after the semester is what we call it as a SEA, summative assessment. Okay, so if you are working on this, if you are working the entire semester on this formative assessment, the student will definitely do it in the summative assessment. There is no doubt about it. And you please also understand that we have to feed the students every day. I mean to say that concept, teaching, and then exam, learning. Every day you have to, keep the students in that particular pace. Not only your course, the whole department will do it. So every day they'll take one test. At the same time, we should not burden them, please. Should not really burden them. Exam, whenever I say test, it does not mean that you have to occupy the whole college and then put the students separately and then write a test. Nothing like that. They can write the test in their class notes. Even they see and write also, don't punish them. That is good. Some learning is happening. Okay, that's what my director sir used to say. Sir, they are copying in the class test. Oh, okay, do it. If it doesn't carry any marks, okay, allowed, fine. But if it carry marks, then you have to be strict enough do that. Okay, so you conducted a small 10 marks test. Students are sitting side by side and they're copying it. You just leave it. Just allow them. But next time you be strict on that. So some learning is happening. That you please understand it. Okay, so what you want students to learn, that's the first one. Okay, and the second one is learning outcomes. Did you reach learning outcomes also? These learning outcomes is different than the course outcomes. Okay, I'm coming one step below that. So what students are learning it, and these LOs should connect it to the COs once again. Okay, COs connected to POs, like that. Okay, POs should be connected to PEOs. That's a PEO. Okay, program educational objectives. PSOs are POs only, one or other. Okay, normally we have 12 POs plus 2 or 3 we write it. So 14 or 15 POs normally we say it, that's fine, allowed. Okay, don't be so specific of it. So learning outcomes. So then accessible learning outcomes. How are you able to assess the students in this? So that is also another important point. Okay, and then assess a task. So how are you able to do it? Okay, continuously assess it. Every time you assess the students, conduct a quiz and conduct a one question, descriptive question. If you practice the students like this, trust me, when they come to the final exams, that means in summative assessment, they don't get tensed because they have practice of all these things. They used to write, 1 mark questions, multiple choice questions, and then fill in the blanks, and then 8 marks questions. So you train them. You train your students in such a way that they don't get tensed. This is very very important. And sometimes we know that the students are strong, but I know that there are some students which are very very weak. If they get less marks, they do some nonsense things. They'll spoil their life. So we should also even train them in that particular scenario, right? And threshold and marking criteria. So how are you able to do it? Suitable marking criteria. Okay. So feedback and feed forward thing also we have to do it. So if your university allows you to conduct summative assessment also, then you have to be very lucky, right? And you have to even prepare some kind of the rubrics to do that. But most of the, except IITs, NITs, and some universities, summative assessment is not in their hand. Okay, so you can't conduct your final exam students, right? You can give your mid question paper, which normally we call it as a cat 1 cat 2. Okay, so but continuous assessment test, CAT. Okay, so but you call it as a mid 1, mid 2, or so only those question papers you can set, but apart from that you cannot do it. Some essay thing you don't have. Normally we call it as SWE, semester end examinations. Okay, that where you get the question paper from outside of your university. They have to follow the Bloom's taxonomy, and wide things are involved in that, which will really help us in direct assessment and indirect assessment. Which yesterday there was a session on that. Right. Now, the quick questions again. I have only a couple of minutes time. So, my main point is only the course delivery. Assessment, as I said just now, because course delivery assessment both are interlinked. Okay. So, while you are doing the course, you have to assess the students. But if you are separating course delivery and assessment design, if you are separating it, then the assessment you are talking is summative assessment. This summative assessment, or you also call it as a semester end examination, depends on the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so based on your course articulation matrix as well as course Bloom's level, which initially I said that 5-finger concept. So looking that course outcomes, looking that one has to prepare the question paper. Okay, so see that you are getting the questions that way. Then NBA people will realize that is what you call OBE, okay, outcome based education. Okay, there must be some kind of the outcomes, right? So, I'm sorry. So, quick questions: how will you the learning outcomes be established? That's what I said just now. Okay, so when you're talking about learning outcomes, formative assessment. When you're talking about course outcomes, summative assessment. Okay, which are fairly related. One is bit substantial. Okay. So what are the outcomes? What would an ideal student know be able to do or value? What measures will be used with each outcome, right? So how will the results be reviewed and decisions made, and what is the timeline for implementing the plan? So these are all things that we have to really look at this. And trust me, if you involve like this, you'll become very, very, very busy in the entire semester, because normally you don't have breathe, take breath also, because that busy you will be. This is what just now I said again, SCA and so-called FA, and there are various synonyms that normally we use it. This formative assessment is kind of so-called mid one, mid two, because we are against to say that mid one, mid two. Mid is only one. Okay, there will be no two midpoints, right? So you can say CAT one or CAT two, or continuous assessment systems. And please look at the last point here. I'm not coming one after another, but look at the last point. The formative assessment to improve the students' learning. So continuously you have to test it in the entire semester. Okay, that's what you call the formative. Uh, by way of providing feedback on importance, diagnosing students' strengths, weakness, and providing, because you are conducting a class test, you correct the question papers and then give it to him, saying that you are weak in so and so. This is your strength, this is your weak. Because you are weak in this, improve it, because the same thing can be asked in the final exam. Okay, so if the same thing is asked in the final exam, he may not be able to do it. So therefore the strengths and weakness of the students you have to clearly mention, and this constitutes assessment for learning. Okay, so that's what you call the format. Now come to the last but one. So this summative assessment is achieve the quality and standards that will really decide the standards of the course. So therefore, that's the reason normally we expect the question papers from the outside world, and then we get it, and then that must be the Bloom's level. And most of the time, MBA people, I mean to say that this, if you say outcome-based education, the second one, I mean to say the summative assessment is very, very important. Okay, so that's what the finally we call it as a uh, the assessment methods to certify performance at a particular level, gaining a degree or qualifying as a valued engineer, right? Uh, so that's the main point to how do you assess the student. So once you certify the student that he is good in signals and systems, or he is good in DSP, fantastic. See, actually, I remember another point that in my university, we used to have some professors, and there we used to have, 25 marks for mid, so-called formative, and 75 marks for the final. So those professors used to do so efficiently and effectively. Suppose if a student gets 22 marks out of 25, then the professor used to say, because you got 22 marks, so in the final exam, you will get 66 marks out of 75. The student used to get more or less in the same way, 66 or 67, 68. So that's how they used to assess the students. And in the formative assessment, when the students give such kind, the faculty gives such kind of the marks, there will be no much variations there. And look at the education system nowadays. Some people in mid-exam he get 25 out of 25. In the summative assessment he fails. How is it possible? When we have trained the student all over the semester, and once he get the 25 out of 25 here, how he can fail in the final exam? That means he could not even get 21, 22 marks out of 75, which is not a right way of doing it. So that is not the way of assessing the student. So therefore, this FA and SA should go parallel. Okay, one should reflect the other. Okay, so that's what we say, the certified performance at a particular level. Now, so this is what actually I said it. So then, what is the best way of effective the assessment plan? So start with the department mission statement. So here the department vision mission will also come in assessing the students. Okay, and we have to build upon the program goals and learning outcomes. Involve more than one type of measure. Okay, so sometimes we are against to certain questions, like we will assess the students only in the subjective, so-called descriptive type questions. We'll give them some 8 questions or 10 questions, answer any 5. That means you are assessing the student in only one type. What about, so if you train your student in such a way that then he may not be fit for any competitive examinations, wherein people will ask more like MCQs. So you have to test, you have to look at the whole picture, and you have to test the students in all the aspects. Fill in the blank should be there, MCQ should be there, true or false should be there. That you can take care in the formative assessments. Right. So it should be developed and carried out by a program faculty and address the real questions and concern faculty may not have about the student learning in their program. Okay. So should be used to improve the student learning. Okay, not merely satisfy a requirement that the program faculty must assess the student. Okay, so normally we conduct some kind of exams to satisfy certain things, but no. So how much the student learn in that is the most important. Okay, so this is what assessment would you want? Mm. So the range of assessments available today, wide variety. Okay, so there are so many points that you have to consider here. So with respect to the time, and then student numbers, workload, technology, reliability, confidence of you to be able to try something, because these are all the things that you have to look at this in the class. First thing is time. So I've given 50 minutes time. You can't conduct the exam for 45 minutes. Then is it that you are teaching 5 minutes class and then 45 exam? No. So we have to plan very well. At the same time, because I said the same point couple of times at our college, then what some faculty have done. They used to take the extra classes. You're not allowed. How can you take extra classes there? So that's what the course delivery talks about. In the given time, what is the best way of performing it? What is your efficiency levels? So that is what actually we have to do it. Student numbers. um, Class, nowadays the class strength is, with later entry students, class strength is about some 72. Now it has become 10%, so therefore 66. It is good, 66, but still how effectively you are doing it. Plan workload. So if you divide the class into 4 or 5 sessions, your workload will increase. So you may not be able to do some department uh, works. Technology and reliability. You can't ask online classes. If you do that, then what is the reliability of the technology? Okay. So if you ask your students to write exam from home, so then everybody will get 10 out of 10. It does not mean that, uh, I'm sorry, it does not mean that the students are good. Okay, so you have to try something special and then do it. Professional requirements are also matters here. Okay, so almost all I'm done. Just close to concluding remarks. Okay, so there are 2 points, mainly 2 points, that I would like to mention here. There are some principles that you need to be considered. Okay, so assessment must be linked with learning outcomes. This is what actually I've been talking about. And the student should be clear about the task. Okay, so no complex questions. Okay, no surprising questions, and you should not make the final exam paper very very tough. Okay, such kind of things we should not be there. If you do that, you will miss so many outcomes. Okay, course outcomes, learning outcomes, everything you will miss. Right. Assessment should be authentic, relevant, and simulating. Assessment across the program should be planned and reviewed together to ensure there is a balance in terms of workload. This is what just now I discussed in the previous slide. Now, the designing the assessment, right? So that's what I said. Your assessment should be challenging. There is no doubt. Okay, should be valid. So it measures what it. I'm sorry, there is a spelling mistake. What it supports to. Okay, the assessment should be reliable. So provide the same results with the different markers of Jurats. Okay, so and then your minimize the plagiarism. This is another point. Assessment should be designed to minimize the plagiarism. So what actually we used to do uh, at our college is that we used to give 60 questions to 60 students. Okay, just change the numbers at least. Suppose you are teaching a electric circuits. In place of 3 ohms, you put 4 ohms. In place of 5 volts battery, you put 10 volts battery. That's it. You can same question, the same KVLs, but just change the numbers. You can prepare hundreds of questions like that. So therefore, why do you want to give a same question to the entire class? But only I do agree. But from your side, the work will increase. You can't say that, sir, how can I find out 60 solutions? Simulink is there. MATLAB Simulink is there. Just feed your network, change the numbers, it will just produce the answers in a minute. So write an Excel sheet and then connect it to the Simulink and then produce the output. It's so easy. Okay, that's what I'm saying. The technology we have to, you must be a technology savvy. Okay, assessment criteria should be clear. Okay, so you just have to tell them that how are you assessing them. So feedback should be timely and constructive. Understand this. Okay, so no negative feedback. No student is wrong. Okay, everybody is good, but we have to tackle them very nicely. Please always remember the student community you are handling today is millennial students. They are different. Okay, so yeah, so I'm come to the final part now. So this is my final slide. So review learning outcomes and assessment tasks and distinguish between criteria and standards. Okay, so you have to always, criteria depends to the department and standards department relate to the faculty. Okay, so refer to relevant resources, only relevant resources. Don't substance your levels in the knowledge. Okay, don't go down. Create a marking scheme and label the verbal descriptions of the standards and create a grading criteria and also give a weightage for that and to ensure the appropriateness and then relevance. So this is my session on this, and I would, before I close this, I would thank all of you, each one of you. You're all good teachers, and I thank you each and everyone for your wonderful uh, patience in listening to my session for 1.5 hours. So thank you once again. And now I'm open for the questions and over to Nageshwar sir.
Yeah. So thank you, Javier sir. I welcome our Babu sir, former CEO, Vardhaman College of Engineering, Vice Chancellor, Reva University, Bangalore. Welcome, sir. Welcome to this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, all. Right. Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Javier, sir, let us see some queries.
Yes, sir.
The participants are requested to put your queries in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I'm seeing them. So if anybody asks the questions, I'm ready to answer it.
Feedback link will be given only for the participants who registered for the FDP.
Hope they all understood what this
Yeah.
entire session. So only the point I would, before I take any questions, so I just wanted to once again tell you that how to present is very, very important. What to present, nobody will teach you because you know that. What to teach, you know. Only the issue is how to teach, how effectively you teach, how do you deliver that in the class. That's only the point. So if you know how to deliver it, you will be the best.
Babu sir, will you give any concluding remarks? Yeah, one question is there, Ravindra sir.
Yeah. I'm just Srinivas Darsha.
Yeah.
So how can the instructor ensure the sanctity of online exam from home? Will you please show the way? Very big thing, sir. Very, very big thing. And what I would, Srinivas Darsha. So sanctity of online exam. See, in this pandemic situations, everybody is currently learning how to do it. Right now, I would say that in terms of sanctity, nobody can ensure any kind of, sanctity or other things. But still, you have to. Only one thing that one can do is the student should switch on the cameras. That's it. But still, that is not sufficient at all, because while he is writing the exam, he can browse internet and he can do that. So we have at Vardhaman College, we have considered this kind of situation, and we do conduct. We have conducted already one exam. Uh, so then 100 marks we have conducted, and 100 questions or 60 questions we have given, and we have jumbled the questions, and we have even jumbled the options also. So such kind of randomness and kind of complexity in asking the thing, we can change it. But with respect to the sanctity, still we have to see it. Yesterday we have attended one more seminar where some software company is talking about the no plagiarism at online exams. So some kind of things are coming out, but still let's wait for some more time to understand this. Sir, there is one more question from Jayashree Patil. She's asking me that please tell us how multidimensional testing is a part of student-centric assessment. All right. So this multidimensional, that's what I'm telling you, madam. Multidimensional has several, meanings there. See, normally you teach, they listen, one dimensional. Most of the time, it really doesn't suit. But if you open up a discussion in the class, let us say that you explained one concept already in the last class, and you open up the same concept in the next class and ask the students to uh, talk on that particular topic, then people start explaining each and everything. From their explanation, you start asking the questions. So it's like you talk, the students will also talk, the other one will also express his own ideas, and you correct it, you again feed some data to his concept. So it happens. So most of the time some people even will do that. While they are asking the questions, they will involve the other concept in that particular situation, and they will even explain the new concept in that. So it can happen in several ways, but you just have to try it, madam. Once you try it in your class, probably within 2 or 3 times you will really do it good. Sir, I have one more question here. Kindly elaborate more on formative and summative assessment. Oh, this is from Chetan. Sir, I explained this point several times, but the formative assessment, that's what I'm telling you, which is normally happen in the class. That means the entire class, entire six almost 90 days you have a semester. So entire 90 days you have to do it this formative assessment, and you will prepare the students for the summative assessment, for the final exam. While you are doing this formative assessment, you can test the student in the various ways. Maybe in MCQs, or maybe in 1-minute papers, maybe a flipped class method, or maybe a jigsaw method. There are several techniques that you can really work on that. So that normally depends on the learning outcomes. Okay, so you have a specific learning outcomes, and you are having, based on those outcomes, you test this formative assessment. Summative is different. That depends on the course outcomes and the Bloom's taxonomy, right? So that is it can be a descriptive type paper, okay, or maybe a 2 or 3 marks paper. So that is different. Okay, so that's what actually the summative and formative. Formative normally happens in the class. Summative is at the end of the course.
Javier, sir, one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you differentiate between teaching material and learning material with an example?
Sir, teaching material normally, I don't know which program you belong to, assuming that you belong to ECE or whatever. So suppose I want to explain Kirchhoff law, right? Very fundamental law, everybody knows this, or Kirchhoff voltage law. And let us say that um, what do you write about Kirchhoff voltage law? So you take a piece of paper and write Kirchhoff voltage law, and just explain, just take the definition of it, point 1, and point 2, explain problems based on this. Point 3, give real-time application. That's what is teaching material. Okay, as soon as you see the teaching material, you should recollect the flow. If you don't have a single piece of paper in your hand, you may forget the flow in the class, which will disturb your time and the course delivery. It is a simple flow. What you have to teach next. First, I'll start with Kirchhoff voltage law, right? Then I explained. Then immediately your mind will be washed out sometimes, right? When students ask the question, your mind will be washed out. Then what you have to define next, you'll forget it. You can't come out of the class, and you have to engage the class. Then quickly look at your teaching material. What is the second point that you want to discuss today? Then you wanted to say that explain some problems. Then take up a problem and then start explaining it. Third one is give some real-time examples. Where are you using Kirchhoff voltage law? That is teaching material. Cannot be more than a sheet. Some A4 sheet, maybe half of it. Learning material is different. There you have to write the definition of Kirchhoff voltage law. You have to give some problems on that, solve one or two problems for the better understanding of the student, give 4 or 5 examples. And then finally, you have to also mention that where you get extra information about this Kirchhoff voltage law in web, that also you have to mention. And finally, you should also mention that which books has this data. Okay, reference books also you mentioned. That is learning material. If you give it to the student, he will learn from it. Teaching material, don't give it to the student. Learning material, you don't require it because already you have enough knowledge in that particular course. Why do you want to have why do you want to even have such kind of material? Some people don't even prepare teaching material. Leave it. They are good. Okay, but learning material should be there. Okay, you have to give such kind of the material to the students, but don't give the textbooks, please.
So
Yeah.
Babu sir, Mallikarjun Babu sir.
Yeah. The mute button is of some problem.
Yeah, yes, sir. Small, different question. I think Ravindra sir also can answer, but I wanted to listen from you, sir.
Okay.
So nowadays everyone is conducting online classes.
Okay.
It is becoming very difficult to attract the attention of the students for 45 to 1 hour. Can you tell us how to retain the attention of the students for at least 45 to 1 hour in the online class? This is one of the questions asked by the participants.
Oh, okay. This is out of the scope of this particular webinar,
Yeah,
right? So,
that's
but
the reason I asked.
yeah. Nonetheless, I'll try to answer it. This is completely a new normal. So we don't know how to really deal with online classes per se. We have been doing webinars online. We have been doing some sessions online, but running a complete class and complete semester is a big challenge. Probably we are also in the process of learning. So the more and more stages we go, we might get some ideas. But at the same time, there are several technology tools now on the move. So many people are now knocking the door with their own tools and etc. But nonetheless, the next question is not connected with online or offline. How to draw the attention of the student? It doesn't really matter with the online or offline.
Is online only, sir? Online
So clearly
only?
say or stop.
Yeah.
Come again. Hello. Hello.
Sir.
Yeah. Come again. What did you say?
How to retain the attention of students for at least 45 to 1 hour in online classes?
That is okay, sir.
Yeah, yes.
But my fundamental question to my friend who I asked this question,
Yes, sir.
how he or she is retaining attention
In
the
offline,
class?
yeah. In offline,
Right?
you are asking, yeah.
Offline.
Yes.
Offline itself is a challenge for us, right?
Yes.
So that's what I have gone through several classes. We have seen Nagesha sir. You agree with me?
Yeah, yes.
We have gone through several classes. Attention retention is something like that which is very challenging.
Yeah.
And by mere theory class it is 5%. I've told you in a slide I have shown
Yeah.
right? There's a huge research which has happened. Attention span, it is very minimal. But here online, what you can do is, in between, you can start asking a question, right? And see how many people are responding to it. So when you put a survey or a question, so you have 60 in the class, 60 responses are coming in up, then probably you can understand out of 60, only 2-3 questions, 2-3 people answer your question, then probably the attention, they are not paying the adequate attention to you. Like similarly, I would also, I had this great challenge when I was teaching. In the class itself, when we ask them, nobody says, right? Nobody comes to an answer. But here, typically online, the student have more freedom because there the student has a factor of shy, right? In the class, they don't want to be raising a question so that other their friends will laugh at, they may kindle them. But here it is not so. Each and every student independently can come online and discuss with us. So there are merits and demerits in both the systems, but how effectively one can engage the students by their content and the style in which they present, and intermittent assessments or quizzes kind, some kind of teasers kind, so definitely would enhance the results. It is better, as I would say, that we have not that experience this mode, but we have been doing it. So no doubt we are doing a lot of webinars and sessions, but nonetheless, we are running a class. I think this will be next semester. We have already started at Vardhaman. Those classes are on. One semester trial basis we are running. Then I think after some time we might come back and give an answer, all of us collectively, what is our experience is going to be. So hopefully I have given some answer which based on the current situation.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, Javier, sir. Thank you, Vandal. Dear
you, sir.
participants.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Let us meet in the afternoon session at 2 p.m. sharp. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Javier, sir. Thank you, Babu, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Sir, thank you, sir. Babu, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Bye, bye, sir. Thank you.
Bye, sir.
Good session, sir. JVR, good session. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Warranty.